Welcome back to Road to Super Bowl 55, and I am delighted to say joining us now, he's part of our commentary team for last year. And I mean, if you're looking at the video of this, a Super Bowl champion who in the background has his players Lombardi just sitting there behind him next to his Patriots helmet from Super Bowl 49. Shane Vereen, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you, Will?
That's a lot cooler than anything I've got on my wall, I have to tell you.
That's okay. That's all right.
I will warn you now, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about one Mr. Thomas Brady because you were a teammate of his. Yeah. And as you can imagine, 10 Super Bowls, possibly 7 titles by the end of this weekend. It's a big topic of conversation over here. Somebody from Tampa Bay was telling me the other day, in fact, I heard Bruce Arians talking about it. That team was talented enough to win a championship, but maybe didn't believe enough. Can one man, if that man is Tom Brady, really make that much of a difference to an organization?
Yeah, yes. But in my opinion, it has to be a quarterback in order to make that type of change that fast. And the reason I say quarterback, because if it was like a Ray Lewis or an Ed Reed, a big defensive talent, yeah, they could will their team and they could stop defenses or stop offenses and be a big force on the defensive side. But I feel like the quarterback has the most control over what's going on in the game. So when that guy is another coach on the field, when that guy is more motivated and the biggest leader on the team, I think the improvements can happen a lot faster, exponentially faster. I mean, as we're seeing 1 year in Tampa Bay and he's already there. I mean, it's when I was watching the NFC Championship game, and throughout the game, I was like, okay, eventually Green Bay is going to wake up. Eventually, they're going to get stopped. Eventually, but Tampa just kept going and kept making stops on defense, kept scoring on offense. I was just thinking, is Tom about to go to another Super Bowl? Are we like, am I in the Matrix? Like, is this really, really happening in his first year after getting bounced out of the playoffs in the first round last year or in the divisional round last year? I mean, it's truly remarkable. And I think I tweeted last week or 2 weeks ago, we just need to sit back and just watch and just enjoy this because there's going to be a time when there's no more Tom Brady throwing footballs. And I think this is a very, very special moment in sports history, not just football, but sports history.
When you came into New England as a rookie, a second round pick, and you had those first times that you met Tom, what are your memories of what he was like as a person meeting him for the first time?
I was shocked and surprised how humble he was when I first met him. You know, the conversations that we had weren't really about football. It was about me. Like he wanted to know about me, and like someone of that stature, taking the time out of his day to come over and talk to me. It really meant a lot. And then you see how he acts on the football field, practice or games. He has such a intense competitiveness that I really, really admired. And when your quarterback leader, somewhat of a coach on the field with you, is that intense and that competitive, it's easy to get behind that kind of guy.
Was it fun as well? Because, I mean, and I think that Danny Amendola's comments from earlier this week have been overblown. He's a guy who, when he left New England, he left under a bit of a cloud. So you have to take that into account.
What did he say exactly?
He essentially said that Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay and doing it again whilst New England was struggling proved that the Patriot way was more about Brady than it was about Belichick.
Okay. I can see how you can see that. Of course, a statement like that is going to get taken out of context, and rightfully so. That was kind of rough there, Dola. But at the same time, I understand what he was saying. And I've never been one to say it was Brady or it was Belichick. I thought they were a match made in heaven. I thought what Belichick preached is aligned very, very tightly to what Brady preached and who he was as a person. So, yes, they both had a lot to do with it. Who had more to do with it? I think I don't know. I think it just depends. I mean, Brady's got so many weapons on offense. He didn't have that his last few years in New England. Even when I was there, I would say we had weapons, but nothing like the amount of weapons he has in Tampa. Um, and so I think the reason why we were able to win though when I was there is because we worked very, very well as a team, as a whole. And was it fun? That locker room was unbelievably tight. I'm still close with guys that were in the locker room with me. I still talk to them weekly. I just had lunch a couple weeks ago with Julian Edelman, and so I winning is fun. I'm just going to put it that way. Winning is fun, and yes, you do deal with a lot of other things that come along with that. But I will say that locker room made it all worth it.
The thing is, and you say it, it's winning is fun is the key, because some have
Yeah,
questioned, has it been fun in New England this year? Has it been tough? Well, of course it's tough when your organization have had winning seasons 19 out of the last 20 years, and
yeah.
suddenly you're, having a losing record, not going to the playoffs, finishing third in your division. Like, those aren't fun things.
That's not fun, especially when you're accustomed to a certain type of winning, not just winning, but like going deep into the playoffs, going to Super Bowls. Like when then you miss the playoffs. That's not fun. But that's not fun for any team. I don't care who you are. That's not a fun season. I've been on teams where my first 4 years we went to 4 straight AFC Championship games. Never went to another championship game once I left after that, after those 4 years. So yeah, I went to the playoffs after that, but it's not fun losing no matter where you are.
No, quite,
No.
quite. Talk to me a little bit about Super Bowl week itself. Back in Super Bowl 49, it's obviously very different this year because of COVID and because the teams are getting to treat it a bit more like a normal week, staying in their own homes and training
Yeah,
in their own facilities. I mean, obviously Tampa Bay, that's even different entirely. But
yeah.
what are your memories of the build-up week, and how, as a team, how difficult is it to try and stay level so you don't peak before Sunday?
I think physically, you want to just make sure everything is in tune, and physically you don't want to get overexcited during those weeks of practice getting ready to go. Mentally, um, I don't know. I think you should ride the wave, and you should feel the importance of the Super Bowl, of what it's going to be, and I think you should rise to that level of what that game entails. Um, I mean, like, I loved being around the Super Bowl field that whole week. We were in Arizona at the time. There's different events and the media coverage, and then you step away from that and you get to go to meetings and practice, and you just get to focus in, and then all that other stuff goes away, and you're just worried about your game plan. You're worried about what you need to do to help your team win. It all comes with it, but I think it adds to the excitement. I think mentally you peak maybe like a couple days before the game for me, and then game day, I woke up, did my normal game day routine, and before you know it, we were holding up the Lombardi Trophy. So um,
I
you know,
went through more stress than that, if that's what you're saying. I like that was my first one being in stadium, and I didn't have a rooting interest in either team. I wanted the Patriots to win because as a 49ers fan, you don't want
I
the
got
Seahawks to win, but I there's still like it was such a back and forth game, and you played a huge part in it. 11 catches, 64 yards. That's off the top of my head. Uh, yeah, pretending like you don't know. Like I wondered for you because there was you. Then we saw it with James White against Atlanta, and going forwards, it feels like that pass catching back, third down back, a guy that can be a real huge part of a Tom Brady offense. Do you
yeah,
see that the running game in Tampa Bay is strong enough, and that someone like Leonard Fournette, who appears to have grown into the role but has had some drop issues this year,
yeah.
is going to be a big part of this game?
I do, I do, especially against that Kansas City, especially against that Kansas City defense. I mean, you're gonna have to find different ways to attack them. They play a lot of man coverage, especially on third downs, and typically in man coverage, um, I mean, receivers aside, I think they have some mismatches on the outside with Mike Evans and Godwin. However, typically your mismatch is going to be between a linebacker and a running back that can move in space, especially in third downs. And the reason I say that is because Spagnuolo's defense typically they blitz up. They're a heavy blitz team, especially on third down, and they play a lot of man coverage. And therefore, your matchups are going to be either a tight end might be your first, or your running back is usually your outlet, your safety throw, because 9 times out of 10, I like to think that a running back should be open against a neck roll, which is a linebacker. So yeah, I think it's going to be. I think they have to. If Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones don't have good, big games, I think it's going to be tough. Not saying it can't happen. I'll never say Tom can't win a game without any certain thing. But as far as possessions are concerned, I think time of possession is going to be more important even than scoring points at times in this game, because you don't want to give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. You want to keep the ball out of his hands. So how do you do that? You move the chains, and that's run game, and that's running backs, and that's making the easy play easy. And that sounds simple, but at the end of the day, if you can make the simple throw and move the chains, you keep the possession of the ball, you keep the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hand. And whether that ends with 3 points, 6 points, or no points, at least you have the ball.
The thing I think about what you've said there, and the man coverage and the matchups, I almost expect to see not a snap of man in this game, because you don't want to go man on Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce or any of those guys.
No.
And then speaking of your Super Bowl, looking at Super Bowl 49, I remember Rob Gronkowski's touchdown and turning to my friend who was a Patriots fan sat next to me, stressing out, and just seeing Gronk moved across the formation. KJ Wright went with him, and you just go, there's the matchup. You've got Rob Gronkowski on a linebacker. That's what I want. Give me that every time. And like you say, same with a running back. I trust Tom Brady to exploit that stuff all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because even in that game, when we put that play in, we were like, we're either going to get one of two things. We're either going to get just like a basic zone coverage, or KJ Wright's going to go out with Gronk. And there was a whole play going on the other side of the field. But I think it was Coach McDaniel said, if KJ Wright and Gronk are one-on-one, we're throwing the ball outside. And so I remember being in the backfield, and Gronk went out, and I saw KJ Wright go with him, and I'm like, oh, 6. I didn't even run my route. I just helped protect. I had a route I was supposed to protect and then leak out to the side. I didn't even leave. I just stood it. I was like, well, he's gonna throw it to him, so I might as well make sure he gets the ball off. And it was a touchdown. But I remember that very vividly.